All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka. With me today, I'm actually nervous today because I have someone here who is a consummate professional, someone I highly respect. Today, we're talking with Mr. Biz, also known as Ken Wentworth. Thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Damon. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be back on the show. I know it's been probably a couple years. I think I was on
Oh,
before.
yeah. Yeah. It was early on and we were talking. And I was like, man, this guy's cool. And then we did a little work back when Clubhouse was going.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the new book you just came out with earlier there. Don't Fake the Funk, some of the other stuff you're doing. I mean, let's just jump right in. Let's start with your background, because you've been on radio. You've been with Mr. Biz, with Mr. Biz Radio for 6 years, man. It's 6 years. Does it seem like it's been that long for you?
It honestly doesn't. It's funny. It's been it seems like a year, 2 years, something like that. It doesn't seem like it's been 6 years, and it just hit me that it had been that long recently when I had a guest on the show, and we got done with the show, and my producer, was on as well, and the person was ranting and raving about how great it was and the experience and everything. And my producer said, "Well, you'd think we'd know what the hell we're doing. It's been 6 years now." And I was like, 6? Holy crap, it has been 6 years.
I know. It's something. But let's talk a little bit about your background, Ken, and because you have a pretty unique background, and you're helping people as a fractional COO, coach, leadership, different things like that. And because not many people doing what you're doing have 6 world records. So let's talk a bit about your background and kind of how you got into what you're doing today, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your world records and how that ties into some other things.
Yeah, so I worked in the corporate world. I worked at JP Morgan for 22 years. I think I was there. Got up to the top 3% in the company. Was in the process of being promoted to the top 1%. I'd always wanted to do my own thing, and it kind of hit me, and it was really ironic when I'm going to get this great promotion and whatever. And I remember having a conversation with my wife. I was in New York. I got to the airport. And I said, yeah, I'm going to get promoted, top 1%, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh my gosh, your hard work, it's great, whatever. And I said, and I'm going to leave. And and there's a pause, and she goes, oh, your plane's taking off. You got to go. And I'm like, no, I'm going to quit. I'm going to resign. And there's a long pause. And she said, did you get to the airport early? Have you been drinking?
That's awesome.
And I said, no. And I explained it to her once I got home. And then next time I was back in New York is when I told my boss I was going to resign. And I said, I could kind of see the writing on the wall, especially at that level. I'm based in Columbus, Ohio, and JP Morgan has 20,000 employees here. But at that level, there's maybe 15 positions in Columbus. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are IT based, not in my wheelhouse. And I knew that they were going to put a lot of pressure on me to relocate to either New York City or London. And we've got kids, and I really didn't want to go through all that. And when I explained that to my boss, and he said, yeah, you're right. The expectation would be probably within 3 or so years that you'll need to relocate to continue progressing your career, et cetera. And so he said, if that's a deal breaker for you, then you're probably making the right decision. He goes, so what are you going to do next? Where are you going to go? And I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, wait a minute, what? You have no idea? I go, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do something. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And he's like, what? Are you kidding me? And I just kind of figured it out along the way, connected with a mentor who helped guide me. I didn't even know that, what a fractional CFO was. I'd never even heard of it because I've been in the corporate world forever. And once he explained it to me, I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And I got my first client and was off and running. And I got to tell you, Damon, I am so blessed. Like I absolutely love what I do. It's not work. I enjoy. Someone just asked me the other day, and I actually felt embarrassed afterwards. They're like, "What's your favorite hobby?" And I go, I guess probably a lot of people call it work. But it's not. Yeah. But it's my job is like what I get to do for a living is almost like a fun hobby for me because I enjoy it so much. And of course, there's some aspects of it that are a pain in my neck, but I figured out that quickly too. I screen clients. I only work with people I want to work with, that I gel with, that I sync with, and all that. And then the crap that I don't like to do, I delegate it, and get that stuff off my plate. And so I don't have to worry about that. So like I said, I'm so blessed to be able to do what I do. And I just absolutely freaking love it.
Yeah. Well, and you say a couple things there. I think that, your clients, my clients, business owners, and practitioners in general really need to understand, if you don't love it to the point that it's almost like a hobby to you, you might want to try to find something else to do or go work for somebody, because it's going to take that kind of passion to do what you need to do to really get to the level you want to get to. And the second thing you said is, if you don't like it, but it's necessary, delegate it, get somebody else to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know I remember talking about this in some of our clubhouse rooms way back is, people would and people ask me all the time, how would I use a VA? Like if I get a VA or I have an actual admin assistant, what do I do? And literally the simple practical thing I tell people is, for 1 week, be very conscious. Anything any task you have to do that makes you roll your eyes or sigh, write it down and delegate it, because those are things you don't like to do. And you know what? I think I'm like most people, Damon. The things I don't like to do, I will procrastinate the crap out of them. And when I do them, I'm probably not going to do a great job because I just want to get it done. I hate it. I don't want to do it. And so, delegating it to someone who enjoys that, whatever it is, and they're going to kick butt at it. They're going to do it much more efficiently. I mean, it just makes too much sense not to do that.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is too, and this is a phrase that you use, and I've used it, I've stole it, and used it a lot. Is you talk about revenue producing activities, right? And if I'm whatever it is, filling out paperwork, writing up a report, doing some Excel spreadsheet work, that's not a revenue producing activity. If I'm the one that's got to produce the revenue, you need to be hitting your RPAs hard every day. To meet the goals that you want to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I preach about RPAs. It's especially if you're a solopreneur or even just have a couple employees, and you're trying to DIY, you're bootstrapping, and you're trying to do all this stuff yourself. And even some people that are seasoned, have larger businesses, get caught up in that stuff too. Is like, man, you really have to focus on the RPAs, the things that really move the needle for your business that you can drive the most effective, and get rid of the other stuff.
Yeah, that's for sure. So now, when it comes to the world of fractional CFOs, I've got to ask, how many other fractional CFOs do you know that have any world records?
I don't know of any. I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't know. I haven't met them yet. Yeah.
So when we think of fractional CFOs, we don't think of people with world records in weightlifting. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that is a little bit outside the world of being a fractional CFO, but B, it's something that takes a lot of hard work and dedication. And I want to talk about that and how that kind of helped you throughout your career.
Yeah, I just got into, I really enjoy weight training and everything. And I got into it, and I was the gym rat. I was always in the gym, and the gym I was at, is a very competitive gym, a lot of, bodybuilders and all stuff. And there was a group of powerlifters, and, one of them was really successful, and he invited me to train with the group. And I remember when he first invited me, I said, honestly, I am not strong enough I don't even want to waste your time. Like, I'm not going to come in and be the wimpy guy. And I set a goal for myself to get to before I would join that group. And I hit that goal, and then I joined the group, and it just kind of took off from there. And he and I became really good friends. He at the time was a world champion. So it's the same thing. It's the whole gym Ron, the 5 people you're around. If I would have been in any other gym, Damon, and it would have been just a regular gym, and I would have never met that guy, I probably would have never pursued it, because I wouldn't even think it was possible. Yeah. But being around someone like him, who was super accomplished in the sport and had been there, done that, it showed me the possibilities. And you start to think, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it? And as I got stronger and stronger, and I started to compete at the national level, And then I won the nationals, and I was at world championships, and I won those. And then it's like, well, what's after that? I won a handful of world championships, and it's like, well, I want to keep going. How do I keep progressing? Well, the next thing is what's the world record? Well, let's look at it and see what it can be, and find out what the world record is, reverse engineer the process, and work like heck to get there. And so much of what's come from that has helped me in my personal life and my career. As you mentioned, the dedication, the diligence, the resiliency that's required. All of those things are transferable to all other parts of your life as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a father, all those things.
Yeah, no doubt. So from the time you started lifting, how long was it before you set a world record?
Oh man. I mean, I guess really I did some weightlifting in high school. Just kind of dabbled in it. But from when I got serious, so I'll tell you this much: from the first time I bench pressed 275 pounds that day, I said I was in that group, and I told those guys I'm going to bench press 500 pounds. Yeah. And even in that group of guys that are they're like, hey, you might want to pump the brakes on that. You got a little euphoria going through you because you're happy about this, 275, but 500, that's a whole nother thing. And I said, I'll figure it out. So from 275 to 500, it took me 7 years.
Yeah. Yep. Because it's not, I mean, that is a feat. That is a feat. Where you were at 275 is where I went out. That's where I went out. And, but 7 years of training, and when you were doing that, I have to imagine there's some weeks where you make zero progress, some months where you make what seems like zero progress, but it's about the process. It's about continuing the work, and then you see gains. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah. I figured out really quickly, Damon, that especially in the sport of powerlifting, the guys who were successful and had any longevity in their career, the absolute 1000% reason why is avoiding injuries. Now, you also have to push yourself. So it's that fine line between really driving yourself hard, but not too hard to where you're getting an injury. I was fortunate. I really only had one major injury. I tore my pec, which obviously for powerlifting was terrible. But that whole process. I mean, think about, you're talking about the progress and slow progress and sometimes not making it. When you're injured and you can't train at all, you're not only not making progress, you're going down. Your strength is plummeting like crazy. And then it takes you how long just to get back to where you were? So I figured that out really quickly, like balancing that. And again, it's applicable to life in your career, like that balance of driving hard, but also knowing when to pull back the reins a little bit and having that discipline to do that. It's just knowing when to push, when not to push, knowing your body well, things like that. But that was the big reason. I mean, you see a lot of guys in powerlifting that sort of come out of nowhere, like a meteor, and they do really well. And then all of a sudden you're like, what happened to that guy? Like, well, he blew out his back and he's done. Like, and now the guy's barely can walk and he's, 35 years old or something. It's like, holy crap, I didn't want to be that person. So, but again, it was being around those people, I at one point, I talk about it in the book, even, I found a guy that was a world champion that was in Iowa. And like I said, I'm based in Columbus. I reached out to the guy. I didn't know him from Adam. And I said, hey, I want to live in Iowa and follow you around for a week. And he was like, stalker? Hello? What are you talking about? And I said, well, I want to learn from you. I want to see everything you do. I want to follow you around and just take notes like a little nerd all day. Because I wanted to be around people that were that successful and see how they operate and see their mentality and things like that. Super, super important. And it helped me tremendously.
Yeah. So this is a great point, because you've done a very good job of this over your career. I mean, you put yourself in the presence of high achievers. There's no doubt about it. I mean, explain what that's really meant to you in business, because I think you've done some of the same things in business, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think it really goes back to, Damon, is when you're around people like that, and it shows you the possibilities, right? If you have any self-limiting beliefs in your head, but you're around someone and you're around these super successful people and you go, in the back of your mind, no disrespect to those people, but you go, you know what? If this person can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
Like I can apply myself just like this person has. And that's the biggest thing I think that people overall, and I do it sometimes myself too, is we limit ourselves because we don't really think that we can do it. We have imposter syndrome, like, oh my gosh, I could never do that or whatever. That's crap. I mean, and you get around people like that, and I try to do it in everything. I did it when I started the radio show. I'm like, that's one of the things I talk about in the book is modeling expert behavior, is getting around people that have been there, done that, are successful in whatever you're trying to accomplish, and just immerse yourself. Read all their books, follow them on social media, watch their YouTube videos. If you can, meet them in person. Maybe not be a stalker and, move to Iowa for a week and follow a guy around like I did, but like that, things like that.
Yeah.
I did it when I was learning, as I was competing in powerlifting, how to cut weight. I bought 4 books on cutting weight. One of them really resonated with me, and I just reached out to the author. Didn't know the guy from Adam, reached out to him and said, loved your book. I'd love to pick your brain. I got on the phone with the guy. I was 20 years ago. That guy's one of my top 10 friends still to this day.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you make a good point too, because in a lot of cases, these people that are very successful, if you're sincere, they like to help people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that people fear. Like, oh, well, so-and-so, they would never, connect with me, or they would never respond to me or whatever. And that's, one of my favorite quotes of all time, Steve Jobs. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. I reached out to that author. The worst thing that happens is he says no, or he just doesn't respond, right? When I reached out to the guy in Iowa, he could have said, you're crazy, leave me alone, right? But if I didn't ask, the answer will always be no. And so I think that's another thing too, is don't be afraid to reach out to those things. When I started the radio show and I reached out to 4, because I'm like, the first show I did was so bad, unbelievably awful. And I told my wife, I said, I have to figure this out, because I don't want to torture someone who would happen upon the show and listen to it, because it would be like nails on a chalkboard. It was so bad. I said, I got to get better at this. Well, who's really good at this? I found 4 nationally syndicated talk show hosts. Been there, done that. Obviously successful. And I just reached out to all 4 of them. I didn't know any of them. And I connected with 3 of them, ended up on the phone with 2 of them. And same thing. They helped me. They were willing. And these are names you would all know. They helped me. They were willing to help me. I was very respectful of their time.
Yes.
But they could hear the sincerity. And I really wanted to get better at this. And they were willing to help, like you said. So, man, it's just, to me, doing those types of things just accelerates your path to success.
Yes.
You're going to learn from those people that are really successful. They're going to steer you around some of the obstacles you likely would have hit on your own. And it just accelerates your path to success. Not only that they help you and give you tips and everything, but again, it's aspirational for me to be around people like that and say, this guy's like a regular old guy. If he can be a good radio show host, why can't I be?
Yeah, that's a great point. So as you got started down the road, what really got the idea in your head to become an author? I mean,
completely accidental.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So anyone who knows me has known me for any, I cannot stand writing. I hate writing stuff. I absolutely hate it. And it was completely accidental. The first book, I had been compiling tips on cash flow, on being able to improve cash flow. I'm coming up with these things and I'm kind of writing down and I'm compiling them in a document. And my brother's like, I mean, it's basically a book. I'm like, nah, it's not really a book, And he's like, no, you should publish it as a book. He's like, put it out there. You can be a published author. If no one ever buys it, who cares? You at least, I was like, okay, whatever. So I did. And the book just, it was slow at first. And then a company in the UK was doing an article on top cash flow books. And I guess the guy told me later that he bought a bunch of cash flow books and he liked mine. So he had, I forget how many books in the article, and he had mine as the #1 cash flow book.
Oh, wow.
And this guy wrote this article. I don't know the guy. I didn't even know he wrote the article. So all of a sudden, I'd get this email, and again, the book was out on Amazon, and I probably sold 10 copies or something in the first couple of months, and then all of a sudden I get this email from Amazon saying, "Congratulations, your book has now sold, 2,000 copies in the last, whatever." And I was like, I emailed him back. I'm like, you got the wrong guy. Like, I don't, and then they're like, no, you literally log into your account, you can see the sales. And so I'm trying to figure out, what did I do? What did I do to cause this? I wasn't promoting the book. I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. And when I went out and looked at the sales, I saw that like 90% of those sales came from the UK, which was even more puzzling to me. Like, what did I do in the UK? Who's promoting me in the UK? And a guy, one of my buddies, I was telling him the story. Well, he went out and Googled, and he's found the article. Okay. And so then I reached out to the author of the article. I was like, geez, thanks so much. And he's like, oh man, I loved your book, blah, blah, blah. And so then that kind of inspired me. I'm like, well, shoot, I got other things I want to share. And so I created the second book, and then, this most recent third one as well. But no, my little hack, my writing hack, Damon, because as I said, I hate to write, is I do audio, and I record myself on audio. I send it to an AI transcription service. I have them transcribe it, send it back to me, and then I edit that. Yeah. Because for me to sit down and just start typing, it would never freaking happen. Absolutely never happen. I mean, it's still tedious to do the editing piece, but the kind of the funny part about that is, when I'm going to cover a topic or whatever, a chapter, I will literally just have a sheet of paper with the chapter title, and I'll have like 5 bullet points, and I just start talking. Yeah. And to get the creative juices flowing or whatever. And I make it like I'm talking to someone. And it's funny, the second book, which is another business book, a professional reviewer came through and, gave it a really good review and everything. And she said, one of the things I liked most about the book was I felt like Ken was talking to me. It wasn't like I was being lectured to. And a lot of business books are sound like a lecture, right? And she said, and I'm thinking, well, I was talking to you.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I know we had talked about that before. You said a while back that you use the audio method to do it. And I think it's a great way for people to get content on, typed out, at least in a rough draft format. I mean, we use AI transcription on so many things now. Even if you're doing it with a meeting, it's very, very valuable, because you can get to certain points in the meeting, remember what people said, or even something like that. But I have a couple other friends of mine I know use it to write blog articles and work on their books as well. And the talking to you thing, I think is much easier for someone to convey if you're actually using audio to go to text.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've gotten that comment from people, like tons of people have said, like, literally, as I'm reading your book, I feel like you're talking to me. I'm like, I kind of sort of was,
Yeah. Yeah. So you've just finished, not just finished, but it was like February this year. You think, don't fake the funk. Don't fake the funk. And so you came out with another one. Tell us why you came out with this one. I think I've got a good idea of it.
Yeah. So this one, the first 2 books are both business books, as I mentioned. First one's about cash flow. Second one's called Pathway to Profits. It's about several different aspects of business and how to optimize those parts of your business. And I was going to come out with the second sort of volume of Pathway to Profits, additional topics. But this don't fake the funk thing, it just sort of happened as I was, been mentoring folks, and I had 2 guys I was mentoring that had been struggling trying to achieve goals, been stagnated, just not making progress. And so this is both within 2 or 3 weeks of each other. And I said, well, here's the kind of process I take. And I never formalized this process or anything. It's just in my head, how I approach things. And so the guy's taking notes, and he was like, man, this is like a pretty practical, simple 4 steps. It's really 4 steps. I was like, I've done a lot of talking. It seems like a lot more than 4 steps. And he's like, no. And we kind of walked through it. I'm like, yeah. A couple weeks later, same scenario plays out with someone different. And he mentions the same thing. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm kind of onto something here. And so I'm like, they both said, you got to write a book about this. You got to put this in a book or whatever. And I'm like, So again, just happenstance, a couple weeks later, a guy reaches out to me, wanted me to come speak to his group for their end of the year party. And I said, well, he goes, what, I said, what do you want me to talk about? He goes, well, let's talk about cash flow. And I'm like, people are coming to this. It's kind of like a celebration. They don't want to hear me talk about business crap. Like I said, how about, let me talk about this new thing that I'm kind of kicking around and developing, and it's how to achieve like goals that you never even thought you were capable of doing. And he was like, oh man, that'd be perfect. It's the end of the year. It'll give people, a jump shot into the next year. And as they're setting goals for the following year. And so I got up and spoke about that. And literally afterwards, people were coming up to me and they're like, where's the book about this? Do you got to have a book? I'm like, no. They're like, you got to write a book. And so I kind of expedited this book in front of the next business book. And, the response from it has been just absolutely crazy. Like people really, it is resonating with a lot of people. And it's applicable to everything. So it appeals to a much wider audience. You can apply it to any goals you have. It could be a weight loss goal. It could be a relationship goal. It could be a business goal, sports goal, whatever. You can apply this, this SMAC, the SMAC are the 4 letters of it, and achieve like just crazy stuff. And I give plenty of examples in the book of, look at me. I'm just a regular guy. And some of the things that I've been fortunate enough to be able to accomplish, it's, you look back on it, you're like, holy crap, how did I do that?
Yeah. That's cool. So what is the 1 or 2 main things you learned as writing the book as you go, wow, I didn't realize that, but it's pretty cool.
Honestly, especially with this book, it really, as I was writing it and putting examples of things in, I had never, rarely do you ever sit back and smell the roses, right? I think we're all guilty of not doing that enough, right? But as I'm writing these things and giving examples, first of all, some of the stories in there were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I freaking did that. Extreme things of that I did in order to accomplish goals or whatever. But so it was kind of funny. But some of the other things was it really created this sort of in my head of like, holy crap, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to do some pretty cool stuff, and just never really kind of realized, the magnitude or the volume of all these different things that I've applied this to and been able to, to do all these cool things. So I think that was a big thing for me, and it gave me a kind of a sense of pride of, like, gosh, I never really, again, took a step back and realized some of these things that I've been fortunate enough to be able to experience.
That's cool. That's cool. Because I tell you, that is one thing. If you've worked more than a few years in a career or at something, you've forgotten a lot about what the accomplishments you've really made, because you're so stuck in the recent past and today that occupies your mind. And when you go, like you said, when you go back and look at it, you go, oh my goodness. It brings up the crazy junk you did to get there, and B, you look at the magnitude of what you've done, and it doesn't matter what you do. I think everybody can do that.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's cool. So as you're going forward now we're looking forward. You've been adding, man, you're Mr. Biz Radio. How it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So you've got how many shows? You still do 2 shows a week, and
yeah,
just
so I do
a lot of different places.
Yeah, so we release 1 show a week.
Okay,
but we do the audio. We started doing the audio with the video. We'd only done a couple videos before. I think we started doing that actually when we built the studio. We built the studio last December, I guess. And the reason we built the studio was we started a streaming channel, the Mr. Biz Network. And so it's like, well, I need content for that. So I might as well start, double dipping with the radio show and having the video as well as the audio. And, but yeah, and then, the whole aspect of it on all these different internet radio stations, and then on all these different podcast platforms and radio platforms it's on, and now it's on the streaming channel as well.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. Like I said, I've been very blessed that it's been, picked up by so many different places and all that kind of stuff. And the feedback we get from it and the reach we get from it is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So as you look forward, man, you've done a lot. What are some things that you go, man, I really want to do this?
Yeah, one of my big goals now that I'm moving towards is my wife and I, we want to start a foundation. So and use that foundation, have basically a portion of all the profits from all the different revenue streams I have go directly into the foundation to fund it. So that's the next big thing. When we're still probably a couple years at least away from that, but that's the next kind of really big thing that I'm kind of focused on, and it's got me driving some of these revenue streams to build them to where they can be able to fund that foundation. So that's the next big thing I really want to push towards.
Yeah. So anything in particular that you want to support with the foundation?
We've kicked around a couple of different ideas, and we haven't really settled on anything specific yet, but we're big animal lovers. So we talked about an animal aspect to it. I'm a huge supporter of the military and veterans. And so maybe, something like that. Obviously kids. So we haven't really settled on what we're going to do yet in particular, and we maybe we'll have different aspects of it and support a couple different things, but it'll probably be one of those, 2 or 3 things we'll focus on.
Awesome. So as you're out there helping people with their businesses, what are you hearing in the business community? What are the things that people are worrying about, thinking about today?
The big R, right? Recession. And I did a show about this, like, I'm trying to think. It was probably been about 3 months ago. I think it was in June. And I said back in June, they hadn't officially said anything. I'm like, we're in a recession. So they haven't officially announced it yet. It's not going to officially get announced until second quarter's over. We're in a recession. We already had the 1 quarter of the negative number. We're so deep into the negative in this quarter, we're not going to jump out in the next 2 weeks before the end of the quarter. However, what I feel like, and what I did in this video, and it actually took off, and I think because I think it was a little bit, people either loved it or hated it. As I said, recession is not a recession is time of opportunity.
Yeah.
You got to stop looking at it in the other way of crawling into a ball in a fetal position and saying, oh my gosh, I got to, and if you are, if your business is barely surviving, then you need to do some of that, of course.
Yeah.
But, I talk about all these businesses that were created during economic downturns or recessions in the past. It's not by accident, and I learned a lot of this too when I worked at JP Morgan. As we built a strong balance sheet at JP Morgan, and when the economic downturn, recession, et cetera, hit in 2008, 2009, because we were fortified and prepared for that, it created a ton of opportunity for JP Morgan to be able to buy Washington Mutual, to be able to buy Bear Stearns at distressed prices. It happened during COVID. 2 of my clients, we were prepared. So it's funny. I look like Nostradamus, and it was semi-planned, but kind of dumb luck. Is I started preparing my clients in June of 2019. I said, there's an economic downturn coming, and I think the soonest it will begin is July of 2020. So I want to make sure we're prepared. So when that downturn happens, we are in a position to be able to be opportunistic. Well, then COVID hits in March. Things go in the crapper, right? And so my clients are like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I didn't predict a pandemic, okay? I was thinking of, recession, et cetera. But, during COVID, two of my clients, their competitors didn't make it through COVID.
Yeah.
And so they're going out of business. And so some people look at that and they say, well, that's kind of, it's kind of shady. You're like taking advantage of the situation. It's like, no. You got, again, wrong mindset. If we didn't have the wherewithal to do that, those businesses would have gone under. The impact on all the families, all those people lose their jobs, all that, the owner's family, all that stuff. We were able to come in, take the owner out, right? Buy him, get him out. He's cool. We need new resources now. We were able to pull those people in. They didn't lose their jobs, all that kind of stuff, and grow our business. And then when we got out of the, came out of the pandemic, those 2 businesses like just rocket ship, hockey stick went up because they had all this additional market share that they gained from that, and being able to buy assets. Both of them were service businesses, so they need trucks on the road. Well, these businesses going out, they have trucks. And literally the owners are like, look, I just went out of business, you know? So I think going into a recession, having the right mindset that it's not time to crawl into a ball and you know, batten down the hatches necessarily, unless you're in a really bad financial situation. It's a time to really look to double down, because guess what? Some of your competitors won't. Some of your competitors make up the numbers, Damon. You say your competitors are spending 10 grand a month in marketing, and they go, oh my gosh, recession. We're going to chop 80% off. We're going to spend 2,000. Well, I want to take mine from 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Because when you see someone who's marketing, and say it's a local business in your area or something, and you regularly hear radio ads or you see billboards or whatever form of advertising, and then all of a sudden during a recession especially, you don't hear from them anymore, you automatically think they must have gone out of business. Well, no, they just retreated. And now that's an opportunity for you, if you're a competitor, to seize that market share. Like, look, fine, I'll double down. I got ads that are working. I'm advertising that's working. Let's go. You want to retreat. That's fine. I'm charging ahead, and seizing market share as applicable in that situation.
It's funny that you talk about that now in terms of recession, because we do some of our work as growth by acquisition. We've always for years done organic and growth by acquisition. We don't talk about it nearly enough, but that is our most popular thing we're doing with people right now is buying other companies, and it is a great way to, like you said, gain market share, gain employees, gain new capabilities, go a little more vertical in your industry. And like you said, the geography too. If you're geography constrained, or you want just bigger market share in where you're at, it definitely helps.
Yeah. Like I said, it's so much of, we kind of get, I don't want to say programmed is too strong of a word, but you just get used to like, oh, recession, it's time to like shrink. And it's like, no, man, I want to change people's thinking around that to say, no, it's time for expansion. Like there's opportunities out there to be able to expand or create new businesses, right? Again, there's so many different businesses that were started during a recession or, some form of economic downturn that are, global businesses now, and huge businesses. So, think from an abundance perspective, not from a scarcity perspective.
Well, and it's just, that last statement is probably one of the most poignant of the last couple of minutes, is because there is enough business out there for you. You just don't have enough people that know about you, what you do, and trust you or know you well enough to do it. And especially in today's economy, where a lot of things are global or at least regional, that they can do this with.
Yeah, anyone is familiar with Grant Cardone, one of the big things he preaches about is the best known product beats the best product every time. And he said, don't take that the wrong way. I don't mean that put out a crappy product. That's not the point. But he said, if you have the best product in the whole world, but to your point, Damon, no one knows about it, they're never you can't help them. If I can help business owners and they don't know about me, and this hit me during COVID, when I see all these businesses failing, and I'm thinking, you know what? Some of those are my fault. Now that may sound silly to some people, but I look at it, if those people knew me and said, hey, Ken, can you please help me? I'm going to go under. I could have maybe helped them survive, right? But they didn't know me. So they didn't know about me, so I couldn't help them. And so, thinking about it from that perspective, a silly example of that I like to use is McDonald's, right? McDonald's is known globally. Is it because they have the best food? Absolutely not, right? They don't have the best product, right? But they're the best known and
well known,
super, popular and super do well and all that stuff, because they're the best known. How much I have no idea what the answer is, but what do you think, McDonald's spends in marketing every year and sponsorships and all that kind of stuff? They're the best known and they're everywhere. That certainly doesn't hurt, but there could be Damon and Ken's burger shop, and our burgers would kill McDonald's burgers, but no one knows about us. So we'll never be McDonald's,
Yeah, we're a 2-mile radius and they're global.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point, and the recession is, it's real, right? It's weird though. And it seems weird to me because we still have the unemployment, hard time finding people, but yet we hear layoffs and other things. What give me your thoughts on that?
I'm absolutely puzzled. Absolutely puzzled.
No.
All of my clients in every type of industry, in every geography, it's not even geography specific, it's not industry specific. I have trouble finding good resources, and it's I don't get it. Like you said, with the unemployment where it is, and you had the Great Resignation during COVID, and all these people. Where are these people working now? Like what? Unemployment. The numbers keep coming in. Everyone keeps waiting for that number to like skyrocket, and it just hasn't. And so the yin and yang just doesn't make sense at all. And again, I'm experiencing it everywhere. We're trying all sorts of different creative ways of trying to attract good employees. And again, a lot of it is it's not about money all the time. And again, I think it's another mistake that employers use is they think it's always about money, but it's kind of a whole nother topic. But it's puzzling to me. It really is puzzling to me. And I understand some of the the entry level jobs. I understand some of the aspects of that. But when you get higher up in and you're talking about seasoned people and experienced people, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It just 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 right now. And I did
Well, I was hoping it wasn't just me, so I'm glad because it's hard to understand, really, because on one hand you see a lot of industries are having trouble, but on the other hand, you have so many people that can't find the people they need or the resources they need, and do that. So, interesting stuff there. Well, Ken, it's been awesome talking with you because I think you bring so much to what you do, your passion, and from the books you write to your Mr. Biz Radio to all the stuff you do. I'm just really appreciative to be able to know you, call you a friend, and to be able to talk with you like this once in a while.
Absolutely, man. The feeling is mutual. When we connected a couple of years ago, and then we shared lots of time on Clubhouse together, and I really got to know you a lot better during that time. And between me and you and Ricky and a couple other folks that were in there with us, and that puzzled me too. By the way, I thought, man, we're killing it. We're like doing all this great stuff, and but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that, and like I said, I got to know you a lot better then too as well, and really appreciated that time, and always appreciated that to spend some time with you and talk with you, and same as well. Consider you a friend, and love seeing all the stuff you're doing online and keeping track of you there as well.
All right. Well, Mr. Biz, how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk with you about something?
Honestly, if you Google Mr. Biz, you'll find me. I'm on all the social media platforms. We share stuff. We share stuff on all the platforms on a regular basis. Mr. Biz Solutions is our primary website. You can find all the different things we're doing there as well. But reach out, man. If you don't ask, the answer's always no, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, thanks everyone for listening today. Thanks so much for being here today, Mr. Biz. Appreciate it. And we'll be back again later this week with another guest on the Faces of Business. Hang around for a moment, Ken, and we'll wrap up.
All right. Thanks, Damon.